All right, what's going on, everybody? FantasyTeamAdvisors.com bringing home the bacon. NFL DFS video. This is the Thursday NFL showdown between the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. So we are going to go through the matchup. We're going to look at all of the possible plays. We're going to look at some of the plays that we like in this game right here. We finally got some confirmation that Saquon is, in fact, out for this game. So we will look at everything, and if you have questions afterwards, get those down below. But I wanted to show you the matchups. I wanted to show you everything on here. So we're going to bring this up, and we've got it down. And it's just, okay, so it's good on the screen. So here's what we got. So I fully expect the game script to go that the Niners are going to be way up there. Full transparency, I already have a bet out there for Christian McCaffrey to score 2+ touchdowns and Daniel Jones to run in a touchdown as well. I think a very popular pick will be McCaffrey as your captain. He's very expensive. He's 19. He might be the most expensive captain I've ever seen. I think. It's going to be very hard to build around him, but we were going to look at it. We're going to look at both sides. We're going to look at both offenses and see where we can go from there. So if you're ready to go, let's go. Here is the breakdown for the Thursday night game. We're going to have this for every game in a different video. So this is just Thursday night. So let's get going. So looking at the matchup here. As of the making of the video, it's a 44.5 over-under. I believe it opened at a 45. It went down 0.5, I think, once the Barkley news went out. I think it was pretty much guaranteed that's what was going to happen, but then he was actually finally ruled out. So we've got that. We look at this. So Daniel Jones coming in. Obviously, they took him out against the first week due to being down 40-0. So on the season, he's seen 95.1% of the snaps. He's rushed 46% of the time, and he has obviously not thrown to himself. Then we get Matt Breida. So just kind of looking at this, obviously his price is lower due to the fact that he wasn't the starter when the pricing came out. So looking at this, he's rushed or snapped, been part of it 22.86% of the time, but that was with Saquon out. So obviously the game script would say it's going to go up a little bit. Rushed 7% of the time. Again, that should go up this week. And he does get in the target game a little bit. 3.45% on the season, and last week he was 3.45. So that's the RB1 right now. Then we've got Gary Brightwell. 4,500 on DraftKings, 5,000 on FanDuel. That's just overall. We see the season snap percentages. Played 15% of the snaps on the season and last week. I don't know if he's going to be a viable option. He will be, if you look at this. So you can see San Francisco ranks 26th in DVP on DraftKings and 26th on FanDuel. So pretty bad against the opposing quarterback. Then you look at the running backs. 28th on DraftKings, 29th on FanDuel, which kind of helps us out with Daniel Jones because he runs a little bit too. So, again, he's not a running back, obviously, but he can put up 40, 50 yards on the ground. He could be sneaky option, too, for like a captain. And we're going to look at all of that after this. So, just kind of looking at that. Breida and Brightwell probably not going to see a ton, but we could see. And then you got Eric Gray, who might get into the fray here just because he's going to have to be active. He's going to have to be out there unless they sign someone between now and Thursday and he plays. I highly doubt that happens. So let's bring it to the just kind of the targets that, if you're going with Daniel Jones, who you can look at. So Darius Slayton has played 67% of the snaps on the season. Doesn't rush, obviously, and he's seen 17% of the targets on the year. So he is Daniel Jones' number one target right now in the wide receiver area. Isaiah Hodgins, he's played 60% of the snaps, 10% of the targets. I believe he had a touchdown in last week's matchup. Then we've got Paris Campbell, very, very cheap option there. 67% of the snaps, 13% of the targets on the season. Then you do have Jalen Hyatt, who's 35% of the snaps, only seen 3% of the season. And then Wan'Dale Robinson has not played yet. I don't know if he's going to be in. Let's see. Questionable. He's 300. He's very cheap. He is questionable. So he did have a doubtful tag the last couple of weeks. He is questionable now. He probably doesn't play, but if he does, it's a cheap option at 300. Sterling Shepard, I just don't know what happened to this dude. He's there. And then you've got the tight end position. So San Francisco, after 2 games, ranks dead last against tight ends. That would bring us to Darren Waller. That would bring us to Daniel Bellinger. Depending on what you're going to get, you actually see that while Waller's the most expensive, Bellinger has played the more snaps, but he's only received about 14% less of the targets than Darren Waller has. So while playing more snaps, he's not really getting the balls thrown to him. But these are all cheap options that we can look at. So if you want to look at the New York Giants side of the ball here, Barkley's out. You got Daniel Jones at 15-3. We can kind of see here, matchup-wise, they rank 12th overall, 23 against the quarterback. 34.74 in last week's come from behind victory. 321 yards out of him. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Had a rushing touchdown as well. So 59 yards, which is very easy. That's kind of why I like this bet. If he could get out in the open and just run and miss some tackles, or a QB sneak out of him, that hits us a touchdown right there. So I'm looking at Daniel Jones here, a viable option for a captain if you don't want to pay up for the damn near $20,000 for McCaffrey. I'm okay with that. Darren Waller is going to be a very expensive or a very popular pick here. His last game, 13.6, he had 76 yards, he had 9,400 in that one. Now he's 11,100. But if you go down to like Bellinger, you can look at him at 1,200. Game logs. The problem is he's played the snaps. He hasn't seen the passes. This is the only problem. I think, and this is kind of how you have to differentiate yourself. If you make multiple lineups, you make 20 lineups, you make 150 lineups, Bellinger has to be in that player pool. Again, he's not the best, but he could vulture a touchdown there. He only has 1 reception for 1 yard. Everyone will be off of him. I think everyone will be on a Darren Waller, but a cheap option again. He's played the snaps. He's just not targeted. So that's the problem. But, again, San Francisco, everyone's going to be on Darren Waller. And if he has a bad game, Bellinger could sneak in there and get a touchdown. Do not underestimate him when it comes to a showdown where you got to differentiate yourself a little bit. Then we kind of come down to the wide receiver position, or the running backs, I guess. Matt Breida. We're looking at Breida here. Again, it's obviously everything's going to pump up because he's now going to be the starter here. Hasn't done much all year. That's the problem. But something's got to happen. The games were kind of crazy. They had to throw the ball and run the ball, and Saquon was taking everything in that game to come back before he got hurt. So Breida's going to jump up there, but again, he's 10,500. I don't know how much I love Breida at that price against San Francisco. Not the best matchup for him to come in after that. Then if we look at the, Isaiah Hodgins had a touchdown he had a touchdown last week, 4 for 5 for 40 yards and a touchdown. He's 9,600. I don't think he's going to be a viable captain option, but he's definitely an option that I could look at. I wouldn't look at Taylor, DeVito, wouldn't look at Slayton, game logs. 60 yards is okay. Cheaper option, I could look at Slayton there. We go down here, Hyatt. 2 receptions on 2 targets for 89 yards is not bad at 2,200. But now he's 7,800 because it is a showdown. He would be a cheaper option. I think people will be off of a little bit. Brightwell, maybe throw him in there, but yeah, he's not going to do much, especially if this game gets out of hand. They're just going to have to throw the ball. So I'll be very light on New York's running backs today. Paris Campbell is a cheap option. Game logs, though, 21 yards his last one. That's kind of it. Not a ton going on. Giants D I'd probably avoid against San Francisco, but kind of don't mind San Francisco's D. But yeah, outside of like Bellinger, maybe Sterling Shepard has a breakout game. I don't love this Thursday Night Football game, especially with like showdown with just New York Giants. So that brings us to the 49ers here. So let's look at the 49ers, make sure you can see it on the screen. Maybe pump it up one more time. There you go. So Brock Purdy, everyone's on Brock Purdy. He hasn't been the best. Game logs, 206 yards last game, 220 yards the game before that. He's been decent. but doesn't have that 300-yard game under him. He runs it a little bit, but he only throws it up 25, 29 times. And if they get up big on the Giants, he might not be throwing it a ton, might be handing it off. Or dump passes definitely could help out. But yeah, so Brock Purdy would be an option for you. He's 14-1 instead of 19-8 like McCaffrey, but it's a lot. It's McCaffrey. You can see he's been absolutely dominant this year. 20th overall DVP on both FanDuel and DraftKings against the running back position is the Giants' defense right now. He's going to be very expensive. So looking at him, he's 19-8 as a captain, and he's 13-2 as a flex. But I think he's going to be very, very popular as a captain spot, but for good measure. We just look at his numbers here. I mean, look at this. 25.5. He had 116 yards week 2. He had 152 yards week 1. He has 2 touchdowns on the year, 27.2 fantasy points. He is the team. It's going to be hard to build around him if you have him at captain, so you're going to have to find those value plays, and you're going to have to hope that those contrarian value plays pop off. So then we get to the wide receiver position. So Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Bell, and Ray McLoud. So obviously Debo's number 1. He has that opportunity to be a running back type play. Game logs coming off 63 yards receiving, 38 yards rushing. So he's kind of back to that hybrid role that he did 2 years ago. He could be an option. 13-2 as a captain, I don't mind that at all. You save $6,000. You can build around it going through there. Debo does both running and catching. I really like Debo here. You could throw him in there, and then you could afford, let's say, McCaffrey. You go through and you find those other guys. I think if you've got them in there, you got to have Purdy, which kind of sucks. But then what do you want to go with? Just depending on what you go with. So, wide receiver, Samuel, I like. Ayuk is questionable right now with a shoulder. He hasn't participated Monday, Tuesday, and the Wednesday reps are not out yet. 43 yards week 2. He obviously had a fantastic week 1, 129 yards. He has 2 touchdowns, both in week 2. Looking at this, he's kind of priced at $8,600. Depending on what you want to look at. And again, the questionable tag is going to be the big thing. If he is out, that jumps up Juwan Jennings for me. That jumps out Ronnie Bell. So then we look at Jennings here. 4,800 game log wise. I mean, nothing in week 1. Had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 51 yards in week 2. He's 4,800. Love me some Juwan Jennings if, in fact, Ayuk is out. Now, that's a big if, but that is definitely something there that you could look at. Ronnie Bell and McLeod, going to be cheap options. Bell, nothing. He's 200. He's a wide receiver 4, but could be a wide receiver 3 in this game if Ayuk is out. So cheap tournament option I'm okay with. And then McLeod here, nothing either. 4 special team snaps, and that's it. Wasn't really in the game. So I don't know if he's really going to be a factor here. I think basically we kind of know if the game plays out like it's supposed to, we can kind of see that overall the Giants' DVP against wide receivers is at 23 out of 32. So we can kind of see that they're not the best. It will really just come down to what wide receivers are on the field, what wide receivers might go through and do some stuff here. So probably not much McLeod, probably not much Ronnie Bell. I think if Ayuk is out, I love me some Juwan Jennings. I love me some Debo Samuel mixed with Purdy and McCaffrey as well. And then you get in the cloud, or you get a little bit down. George Kittle, obviously, if you're taking a tight end, George Kittle's name's always going to be at the top. 6,600 game logs. He hasn't done much to start the season, though. Started off hurt, questionable for week 1. He's played both games, only has 6 receptions. We know how good he is, especially in the red zone, especially at the goal line. I could definitely see this being an under-the-radar play because people are going to be like, he hasn't done anything. Then he's 6,600. He's kind of on the cheap option. We look at this. That allows us, like just this build here, we have to have a Giants player. That's the problem. But I wanted to go through and look at everything else. Looking at Ross Dwelly, he's played 17% of the snaps. He's played, he's had 0 targets. Nothing has come his way. So if you're not looking at Kittle and you want to look at Dwelly, he's 200. I mean, he's obviously a dart throw. Just close your eyes, throw a dart at a board. That's him. Doesn't have any receptions, doesn't have any targets on the year. He's out there, but he's only out there 17% of the time the whole year. And then you got Charlie Warner, which I don't. He's 200 as well. Probably nothing coming out of him. Yeah, it really, these are all dart throws here. This is kind of like a one. This is nowhere near what we had Thursday Night Football last week with the Philly and Minnesota game. So not a ton to think about. But as you can look, over under a 44.5 here. The Giants have an individual team total of 21.2 as the making of this video, 21.27, whereas San Francisco is projected at 26.49 team total score there. So obviously I think it's going to be San Francisco. If San Francisco's up big, then if you want to follow the game script, they're going to have to be throwing the ball a lot to the Giants receivers or running backs, depending on who's in there. That's kind of how the game might shake out. If you look at this and you kind of filled it through here, you got 2,800 left. You could throw, and you need a New York Giants player. You could throw in a Shepard. You could throw in a Bellinger. Not a ton to love, but a Bellinger, maybe he goes off, and there you got a weird play here that people might be off of. So I don't love this Thursday Night Football game, but I wanted to bring you a breakdown a little bit. And we're going to do this for every single game. So we're going to have a video out going through all of the Sunday games. And then I don't know if we'll pair that with Monday night, or we'll do a separate Monday Night Football video, because there are 4 teams, 2 games instead of 1 game and 1 showdown. So obviously there's going to be 1 showdown, and it's normally the last game of the Monday night is the showdown, the main showdown. So we'll just kind of see. Last week we didn't do a Monday Night Showdown one, and I'm glad we didn't, because Chubb would have been in every single one, and then we know his knee exploded. But yeah, so if you have questions, let us know down below. If you like this video, hit the like button. Share it with everybody. Go check out everything else we have to offer at fantasyteamadvisor.com. All NFL content. We got MLB. You can sign up FTA Plus, $24.99, or a yearly pass, $199 right now. Good luck on Thursday Night Football. Let's bring home some bacon this week, guys. Peace.